I appreciate your indulgence in being allowed to make a personal explanation to the House this morning. This is going to be a very difficult statement for me to make. I wish to thank my immediate family for their unwavering support after what has happened to me. I wish to thank my staff and parliamentary security for their protectiveness and support. And I wish to thank the Victorian Police and the Sexual Offences and Child Abuse Investigations team for their amazing diligence, support and professionalism in dealing with this case. When I first came into this place, I stated, "Under my watch there will not be silence." So I stand here today and for the next 4 years as a voice for the vulnerable, a voice for the enslaved and a voice for the voiceless. So today I rise to speak out on behalf of victims of a crime perpetrated by someone who was very close to me. In fact, he was my husband. I've been silent on this topic until now, only because I would not do anything to interfere with police investigations or judicial proceedings. But these are completely over. And so it is time to speak out on behalf of the voiceless and the vulnerable in this story, the victims, and to set the record straight about what transpired. In February last year, my son Terence Carling and I discovered that my then husband, Gary Jenkins, had an extensive collection of child pornography. In this discovery, I personally viewed deeply distressing images which have caused me immediate and then ongoing anguish. Gary was initially picked up based on witness statements my son and I provided to the police. These statements were recorded shortly after our discovery. I want to make one thing very clear. I had no idea prior to February 2016 that my husband was addicted to child pornography. I had believed for a long time that he was suffering from a mental illness, and I had attempted on numerous occasions to get him help. However, Gary had consistently rebuffed or sabotaged these attempts, and I thought at the time that that was another symptom of a mental illness. I look back now with clarity which only comes through hindsight around the lies, the deception and the cover-ups of Gary and his parents. Gary does not have a mental illness. His behaviours stemmed from something much more sinister. The Victorian Police embarked on a long and I would believe arduous investigation of the crimes. At the conclusion, they achieved a conviction and a custodial sentence in the county court. I do not believe that a sentence of a few months in jail and inclusion on the sex offenders register was adequate given the seriousness of the crimes. This is not a reflection on the Victorian Police, their investigators or their prosecutors who did an exceptional job. I have no regrets as a mother or a wife in reporting and exposing this dreadful crime which occurred within the privacy of my home. My son Terence has no regrets either. But make no mistake, our lives were turned upside down the day of the discovery. We were gutted. My marriage ended instantly. And I left home the day I made that discovery, and I have not returned to the family home since, except to pick up belongings. I have no intention of returning to the house which now holds such haunting memories, or to the marriage. I ceased all support the day I discovered that Gary had perpetrated such an horrendous crime. Unfortunately, in true felonious style, he has used our time apart to abuse me, financially, emotionally and psychologically. He has refused to give me a property settlement or any access to assets, leaving me with continued unstable accommodation. He has contacted my son repeatedly, whom he had little interest or investment in previously, and he has resisted signing divorce papers. Our system is such that whomever holds the assets can continue to abuse, leaving survivors vulnerable. I remain vulnerable financially and physically, fearful of my ability to protect myself and stay safe, having been subjected to vile stories, harassment, and real threats. However, my then husband's crimes are not about me, nor are they in reality about my ex-husband. They are about the victims, the little girls who are abused for the sick viewing pleasure of pedophiles. The faces of many are etched in my memory for eternity, and I pray that the police were able to identify and rescue as many of these poor, helpless and vulnerable victims as possible. I find myself now unconsciously searching the faces of little girls that I see on the streets, distressed when a